Okay, good evening. It's 5 o'clock on Tuesday, and I'd like to officially call a special meeting call to order. We have one item on our closed session agenda, but before we get to that, we do have public comments, which will take us to 1.02. And just looking through my screen, making sure everyone's here. I see Trustee Perez, I see Chancellor Gillespie, I see myself, of course, Vice Chair McKay, Trustee Torres, and Trustee Mantooth, and just looking for, hey, in the boardroom, all right, I'm just looking for Trustee Gonzalez, so hopefully she'll be looking for her. Hopefully anyone see Trustee Gonzalez before we
I don't see her yet.
Okay, maybe we'll give her a minute and we'll officially start.
Chair Chancellor,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez is trying to connect and I'll help her right now.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the update. So for those of you just joining, we're just waiting for Trustee Gonzalez and we'll be starting shortly. Okay, it looks like Trustee Gonzalez is joined us, so that's great. Welcome, Trustee Gonzalez, and we are now ready to transition to item 1.02, which is public comments on closed session agenda items. We are going to start. Let me just click over to that. So when we publicized this meeting, we of course followed our policies and we called for if there were any comments to be written ahead of time, or if members of the public would like to speak at this meeting. And we received, I believe, 3 individuals that wanted to, from the community, that wanted to speak live at this point in time. So we're going to start with those 3 live comments one at a time, and then we'll transition into the written comments, reading those out loud, and then of course go into closed session. So with that, I believe, let me switch screens here. The first public comment that was on my list is Ms. Lorena Ortiz. And I
And
believe Ms. Ortiz is now in the room. So Ms. Ortiz, you are our first public comment that requested to speak live in person. So your time is now. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lorena Ortiz and I am an OCASG president. I am here today to voice our students' concerns, outrage, and questions regarding OC tenured Professor Abrams' admissible behavior and offensive comments toward a student last Thursday, which resulted in a video circulating social media. I will share 2 posts from a former student and a parent of a current student, OC student. Former student, initial CH. Lorena Ortiz, I took 2 of his classes in 2018 and 19. I complained almost 4 times a semester to the Dean of Health and Science, Caroline Inouye. I also walked in there with 10 students one time and had a meeting with Caroline Inouye and Justin Miller, Science Department co-chair. Nothing happened. Initials SC, a parent of a current OC student. Oxnard College has known about the discrimination and disrespect that this professor projects onto his students. I'm sure at the end of this, either nothing will happen or they will force him to retire with full benefits. My son was so afraid of this teacher kicking him out of his class due to our dog barking. That was out of my son's control, but yet the teacher threatened of any barking that it was a distraction. I told my son if he kicked him out, I would be the first one at the college filing a complaint. Current OC student AG. He was actually not bad. From the beginning, he told us we needed to have tough skin to be in his class and not be easily offended. I know he may come off as rude, but I think it was because of his cancer. Being the voice of our students, the Oxnard College Associated Student Government would like to inform our students, faculty, and staff that we stand alongside the student who was humiliated and treated with such disrespect from a tenured professor. We are here for all students. No student should ever be threatened this way at any time whatsoever. We too are students. We have witnessed how most professors at Oxnard College are beyond supportive and provide endless encouragement. Many times, staff and faculty remind us we are capable of great things. This professor's actions towards a fellow student are unacceptable and do not define who we are as Oxnard College, nor does this represent the rest of our professors and staff. We would like to find a solution and be of help, but we also would like to have hear other students voice their concerns, as I mentioned some of them. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Ms. Lorena Ortiz, for your public comments. I believe our next public speaker is going to be Mr. Gerardo Santos, followed with Carla Alejandra Ramirez. Gerardo.
Thank you. So Professor Abram has clearly violated a sacred agreement which all students rely on for safety and protection at school. He was quoted in one of the videos as, "Just have them, your translator, teach you," is what Abram said to the student as he was made clear that she was hard of hearing, or they are hard of hearing. I'm sure most of you can agree that no student should be treated in such manner. In fact, it's against the law. The majority of Oxnard students come from direct experiences of discrimination. We are no stranger to it. Therefore, the outbursts you have heard and will continue to hear should be of no surprise. The reputation of VCCCD and Oxnard College is at stake, while we continue to face a fallout of indifference from privileged classes. Our only sanctuaries remain unprotected by prejudice. Oxnard College is a safe haven for many of us, a dream for families, only having envisioned to one day attend schools, but couldn't because of poverty. That's not to mention that we don't struggle to pay for education as well, especially as people of color, but that's a conversation for another time. The questions that should be ringing in your heads as you hear our voices should be, Will I choose to perpetuate generations of discrimination by upholding indifference? Will I choose to protect the notion that discrimination is not held accountable? Will I choose to ignore the histories and herstories of Oxnard and validate the repression of our people? This is not just about Abrams. I hope that all of you understand, and all the people in Oxnard understand. It's not just about a professor that committed something that he shouldn't have done. It's about our lives. It involves our lives. It involves our place in society and our future. So with that, I just want you all to focus on the experiences of our community so far. I mean, this can expand, we can say for a few hundred years, but actually it's been 500 years that a lot of our people have been experiencing such hatred and discrimination. So just keep this in mind as you all discuss, and like Lorena Ortiz said, as you know, you all follow forward. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for your public comment. It sounds like, I'm just going to double check here, that Carla Alejandra Ramirez is not in the waiting room and is not is not currently here at this point. So if she if Carla pops in, it sounds like it's just going to triple cut. Please, staff, let me know, and we'll make sure to give Carla her opportunity. Okay, we're going to transition now into the written public comments that we received. I have not counted them, but I think I heard it's a number around 18 or so. So I'm going to read every two, and then Ms. Brower from the district office staff from the chancellor's office will read two, and then we'll go back and forth. So with that said, I'm going to start, and these are in the record of the meeting. So for the public watching, they can be viewed at your leisure. Okay, first public comment that was received is by Ivan Betancourt. And it says, Ivan says, it's clear that the teacher was not professional at all. It's recorded. Let's say that the teacher no longer can teach at Oxnard College. Would this mean that he is barred from teaching in Ventura County or the state? And that was the end of his public comment. The next public comment is from Amy Pruitt. Dear members of the board, public, my name is Amy Pruitt. I am a recent graduate of Ventura County Community College District, Ventura College. I would like to address the recent video posted of the horrific interaction that took place between a tenured teacher, Michael Abram, and a hard of hearing student, Carla Salazar. The incident should never happen, period. This is not an isolated incident. A similar incident happened with me and teacher, Eden Bellinson, while taking microbiology in summer 2018. I too am hard of hearing, deaf. Ms. Bellinson from day one constantly harassed and ridiculed me and my translators in front of my peers for the entire 8 weeks of summer school. For fear of retaliation, I filed my complaint with Ventura College as soon as my grade posted. Ms. Bellinson resigned. Had she not, I would have filed official complaint with the Office of Civil Rights for pure discrimination, disability, harassment, hostile learning environment. Administrators have a pattern of slapping on these abusive teachers on the wrist. Behavior and turning a blind eye, doing absolutely nothing to stop this. They too are part of the problem. The Ventura County Community College District's affirmation statement states that it, quotes, prohibits all forms of harassment and discrimination and will not tolerate any behavior that constitutes unlawful harassment of staff, student, and visitors, unquote. This abusive behavior continues to be tolerated. Where is the accountability? The VCCCD is being given an opportunity to enact real change. We must do better.
Okay, and the next written comment is from Anna Castro. And she says, as I watched this man berate and bully the young lady, I was brought to tears. I thought of my own child, whom I've had to advocate for throughout his entire life because he has specific needs. He is currently a high school student taking his first college class with a wonderful supporting professor. I fear that my son will ever encounter an instructor like the one involved in this incident. I can only assume that the level of nonchalantness he displayed during this incident is telling of a pattern of behavior that he is comfortable displaying in the classroom. institutions of higher learning have a commitment to strengthen pathways to success for all students and more so for those with additional needs. Your response to the incident should demonstrate that commitment. Next is from Angelica Carranza. This vulgar and demeaning behavior should never be demonstrated by a member of the faculty, whether it's directed at students or peers. This goes beyond that, and Mr. Abrams' atrocious attitude towards a disabled student, mocking her disability, should never be tolerated. This mannerism was not learned overnight. Rather, this teacher has evolved over time and with much practice. This should not be the type of teacher you seek out to help and educate our students of all abilities. His entire class watched him degrade and belittle the student who was hard of hearing. Yet only one student stepped up and said something to Mr. Abrams. That's to the fact that Mr. Abrams is seen as an authority figure, which to many is seen as power. Power this man is obviously incapable of handling with fairness and modesty. There should be no tolerance for this behavior amongst faculty.
Okay, I will now read the next two. The next one is from the ASL Club at Oxnard College. The officers of the ASL Club at Oxnard College have been watching as events have unfolded surrounding a professor displaying autism to ridicule and demean a hard of hearing student during an online Zoom class. This behavior is shocking and not representative of the professors or the environment within Oxnard College. It is important that we recognize and condemn autism when we encounter it. Autism is a discrimination against deaf and hard of hearing individuals and has no place within our community, especially in an academic setting where all students should feel safe and comfortable enough to express themselves and grow. The ASL Club stands in support of the deaf community and commends the actions of fellow OC students who rose to the defense of their classmates. Oxnard College is above autism, above discrimination, and above senseless aggression toward fellow human beings. The ASL Club is committed to supporting all students, hearing, deaf, and hard of hearing alike, and will not stand silent in the face of discrimination. Next comment is from Carla Cabrera. I am a student at OC and I feel like professor should be fired. It goes against the school's policy and for what they stand for. I don't feel like Oxnard College is a safe place, knowing there is people like that who teach to my peers. Hopefully this message gets through and makes my college a welcoming place.
Next is from Claudia Ramirez. I am part of the physiology class with Dr. Abram. It is the first time taking a class with him. I am in disbelief that our professor is being judged over a few minutes of a video when the class is 1 hour and 50 minutes long. Dr. Abram was clearly frustrated. There were several students not paying attention throughout the class, Mrs. Salazar being one of them. As Mrs. Salazar, there were other students that were inattentive, laughing, and having side conversations. This is disrespectful and takes away from the lecture when the professor has to constantly redirect the students that are not prepared for class. Dr. Abram did explain his frustrations with the class. He mentioned that he was concerned because people taking this class were going to become nurses, physical therapists, doctors, and professionals. It was important to pay attention so that we could retain the information to help others in the near future. At the end of the lecture, he did offer for those that had additional questions regarding the class or lecture to contact him via email. I write this so that the public understands and gets the full picture of what happened that day. Dr. Abram wants the students to succeed, and all he asks is for students to show up to the Zoom class prepared to learn. Next is Emily Zwahl. The treatment recently witnessed toward one of our hard of hearing students was a flagrant example of autism, discrimination against a person who is deaf, hard of hearing. It is incumbent upon all teachers, staff, administrators, and board members tasked with protecting our students that we respond clearly and swiftly to this type of behavior. It is not enough to simply provide students with a platform to share their concerns. We do have a grievance process already in place and students do report. The problem lies in the process that repeatedly favors teachers, even when presented with evidence of egregious behavior, and despite a record of complaints in some cases, many students and faculty alike have lost faith in the system's ability to actually protect students. The solution does not lie in new campaigns to promote a facade of equity, and empty commitment to change. Real substantial reform of our practices is needed. As an instructor, I can no longer in good conscience encourage students who disclose to me their experiences with this type of treatment to go through the grievance process when I have personally watched it cause them more trauma and fail them time and again. It takes courage to stand up, and then we let them down. The video went viral, is indefensible, and an opportunity to demonstrate our commitment to students. Let us not equivocate. And Emily is an ASL instructor at Oxnard College.
Okay, next comment is from Hal Hunter Sudrith. It is shocking to see the social media of the incident last Friday, as I read several posts and watched videos in TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I was in disbelief that it happened at Oxnard College, where there are deaf studies and interpreter training program majors. I hope to see a remedy for the ignorance. Hal, T.G. Glad, Regional Director. Jasmine Pidra. I believe Professor Abraham has a lot of work on himself, and I hope he is doing that now while on paid leave. My fellow classmates, no matter what special circumstances they require or not, deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. We pay and show up to learn, and I sadly feel that he has failed us already, aside from seeing what kind of person he really is. His teaching methods have left my peers and myself lost and confused, and now with the replacement that we are lucky to have for now. I have hope in being able to catch up and actually grasp our complex material. I worry about having him return and teach us once more. It makes me uncomfortable to think about having him lecture freely and not focus on what we need to do as far as labs and more in-depth explanations. But also because I'm sure I'm not the only one who will be able to want to learn from him after seeing that video. Hopefully, we will be able to stay with our replacement for now because it seems to make the most sense at this time of the semester. It is frustrating to have to be in the middle of this sad event, and I hope we can learn from this and be able to move forward in our academics successfully. Thank you.
Now from Jessica Cabrera. The actions of the professor was very indifferent. The student was hard of hearing and was trying to learn while the professor acted in a manner that was unprofessional of him. He was harassing her with comments, and while other students were trying to defend her, he did not care for other opinions than himself. Joel Garcia. I wonder if VCCCD has offered an opportunity for a full-time ASL instructor position for focusing on a deaf and HOH employer in the future, because VCCCD is still active discriminating against the deaf and HOH applicants, and they did hire a hearing and ableism employer with no first language of ASL and no identity of deaf or HOH and no accommodations from American Disabilities Acts. How will VCCCD hold a community college accountable for authentic academic honesty and following the state federal laws as equality to all people?
Okay, Marissa Lopez. Hello, my name is Marissa Lopez, and I'm making a comment due to the TikTok video about Professor Abraham. Any person who works on campus, especially professors, should be having the best interest for students in mind. Professor Abraham was not only being obvious, but treats students improperly. Within the past couple of days, I've heard students speak about him saying racist things such as "go back to your country" in 2017. He must be fired. There should be no room for discrimination at Oxnard College. Next comment is Mary. It is very unfortunate this situation has happened. However, I believe all things can be turned to the good. Oxnard College has an amazing deaf studies course and ASL club. As a community, we are producing deaf study majors who are in need of jobs. I believe Oxnard as a whole needs to look at how we can address autism and be an example of inclusivity, especially with regard to education in the city of Oxnard. Deaf or hard of hearing students are forced into mainstream education that is not geared for equal access. Deaf culture deals with systematic autism in many forms, consistently forced into an environment catering to hearing people. With the spotlight on us, what better time is there than now to utilize the people that Oxnard College is filled with deaf culture, knowledge, and awareness? What better time is there than now to create and fill roles in our community and establish Oxnard and Ventura County as a whole as an ally to our deaf brothers and sisters? Here are 3 ways we can begin to accomplish this. Make March Deaf Culture Awareness Month at all 3 Ventura County Community colleges. Prevent language deprivation by providing dual trilingual access in elementary schools throughout Ventura County, not just in Ventura, at Loma Vista, one of the more affluent areas, I might add. Early language education access for the deaf or hard of hearing families with children under 7. Recognize and establish roles like sign language interpreters for board meetings, deaf and hard of hearing advocates in public services, utilizing Oxnard College graduates and our deaf community to build from this unfortunate event. Thank you.
Next is Monica Vasquez. Hello, my name is Monica Vasquez, and I'm the president of the ASL Club at OC. And I am here for my officer that we want spread the hashtag understand autism to all community and not just deaf community. We have discrimination against deaf and hard of hearing people, but many people don't understand what it means, autism and not ableism. That problem, we should show them to the community that we are not disabled because we just can't hear at all. We are human beings just like you guys. We have thoughts and feelings too. Next is from Dr. Patricia Hughes, and she writes, "It is horrifying to watch the YouTube. I could imagine how the deaf student must be feeling. Unfortunately, the professor's attitude continues these days. I wonder how college plans to remedy this. You and I are in 2021, and his attitude is not acceptable. I'm interested in learning what the community college plans to do about this situation. It can't continue without changes. It reflects on the college itself, not educating its staff too on diversity, including deaf, hard of hearing, deaf blind, and deaf disabled. Again, it is disgusting and horrifying. We still have hopes because we expect that the college will take steps to correct this." And Dr. Hughes is from GLAD, GLAD. She's the CEO.
Okay. I'm sorry, this is from Stephen Cruz. "It is disheartening to hear the actions of Michael Abram has done and of all the allegations that several management personnel had known of prior incidences for the past several years with no disciplinary action. My son had told me of threats he received from Mr. Abram of being dropped from his class if he continued to hear our dog bark in the background during Zoom class when temperatures were over 100 degrees in Oxnard. My son had to attend those classes in a closed bedroom in severe heat just to satisfy Mr. Abram. When I asked my son for information on the professor, he refused to give me his name in fear of retaliation and did not want to fail his class. Mr. Abraham is very well known for using scare tactics and intimidating the students that if anyone was to report him, it would not go good for them because he was very well connected in the community college and could not be fired. I strongly urge that a thorough investigation be conducted and Mr. Abram be terminated from his teaching position. If this is not taken seriously and gets brushed under a rug, I will join several others who have already signed a petition to seek a bigger investigation at the state level." Okay, next comment and our last one is from Ty Gardner. "I assume you are meeting to discuss the video documentation of an interaction between instructor and HOH student. I will not speak directly on this in the interest of allowing the board to perform its investigation. I encourage the board to look not only this case, but to also take a holistic view. Whatever happened here, the verbal abuse of students has happened before. In 2018, a part-time instructor at VC resigned after denying ADA accommodations to and verbally abusing an HOH student and her translator. She had a history of similar behavior. A mother and daughter taking a class together came to me in tears because their instructor publicly berated them for tardiness. A successful student visited me in tears because another instructor suggested she may be too dumb to understand him. We have an evaluation process to deal with these concerns. Unfortunately, this may not always function as well as it could. A dean may discourage student complaints to be hesitant to negatively evaluate experienced faculty, those seen as peers or those on the same team. We seem to lack administrative accountability. Student evaluations carry little weight. Our improvement plan policy lacks guidance on restorative justice and professional development. We may feel restrained by an inability to find replacements due to low pay and unfair lab pay. Relative to surrounding districts, our problems are systemic, not singular, and most are not unique to the Ventura County Community College District. 250 words isn't enough to provide solutions. Please reach out. Those are the end of public comments. I believe Carla is in the waiting room, so we'll hear one more live. And let's make sure. Go to the top. Carla.
Yes, now.
Okay, great. So Carla Alejandra Ramirez, looks like you're connected. Welcome, Carla. You requested to make a live comment, so feel free to begin.
I'm sorry, is it 3 minutes or 1 minute?
It's 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, let me just get situated.
Cool.
As a student, I will not waste time speaking about how horrible the incident that went viral last week between Mike Abrams and the student at Oxnard College was. We are all adults who know very well the difference between right and wrong and how other human beings should be treated. I, along with many other students and community members, do not want generic statements from the district telling us how bad they feel and that they support students. We want you to show us with your actions. We do not want flowery emails made to pacify us into complacent inaction on your part. We want you to actually do something so that this never happens again. Students had been complaining about this professor for years. There was talk among students throughout different campuses about the arrogance, rudeness, inappropriateness, and overall ineptitude of this professor. But the district, nor the campuses, ever provide students with the reassurance or with the proper environment which makes us feel like we can voice our concerns, especially about professors. The hoops we have to jump through in order to file complaints about staff and faculty are so hard, it's almost as if it's on purpose. Not to mention the stifling, overbearing atmosphere of complete obedience most faculty require and foster from students, which makes us feel like we can't say anything bad about them. What will the district now do moving forward so that you can actually hear us as students? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That concludes public comments. And before we transition into closed session, and I'll of course read the readout for closed session, but I'm going to hand it over to student trustee Gonzalez that I believe has a comment herself.
Hello. So for starters, this emergency meeting is a good thing, and it shows that we have good intentions on doing the right thing. Unfortunately, because of the circumstances that we have our brave students who have come today to share their words and concerns, as they have been reaching out to me as well. And I'm glad that they are here and you all get to hear from them and be able to understand their frustrations and their emotions. As the student trustee, I relate and I understand the disappointment our students are feeling. Our students are very upset and have lost trust. They are looking up to all of our leaderships of this board and on our campuses. And our students are concerned and they hope the right things and decisions are going to be made during this entire investigation. The behavior that was presented was very inexcusable, rude, unprofessional, and discriminating to all students and all students with any sort of disability. What concerns me is how could this have been prevented? You know, and what is the district going to do to change and correct the situation? There needs to be change in the familiarity of wrongful actions and put into place correct behavior. Our one man is not who Oxnard College is or represents, but what we preach and put out into our students and to our community is a reflection for what we stand for. The actions of one using their position to inappropriately speak to students and a student with a disability is not what we say we tolerate. I, as do all of our students, are looking forward to to see the results of this entire investigation, and hopefully that the right thing will be done.
Trustee Gonzalez, thank you for wrapping that up. We are now going to transition into closed session, and the item is officially 2.01, and it's significant exposure to litigation, Government Code 54956.9, paragraph 2 of subdivision, and we have one case. And this is closed session, and I would just add, this is not listed as an action item. This is listed as discussion. So with that, we will be transitioning to closed session, unless I'll lean on Vice Chair McKay if I didn't forget to say anything before we officially go into closed session.
You're good. It's just, yeah, just there will be no action taken. So to stay for a readout would just, the point is that it would be a waste of your time. We won't take action tonight, or can't take action tonight.
Okay. So with that, we'll be transitioning into a separate Zoom meeting or Zoom room. And thank you all for being here. And I'd just like to say thank you for the students and community members that made public comments today, and also for Trustee Gonzalez. And with that, we'll be transitioning into closed session. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody.
And Chair, just a reminder for the closed session, there's a separate Zoom link for that.
Okay, great. Yeah, so trustees, an invite for a breakout room will not be coming. Hopefully you can pull up your email and find the email with the separate link. And if you don't have it, maybe reach out to staff and they can resend it.
I'm going to drop off. Thank you.
Chair, so we should go ahead and leave this meeting.